Hey everybody, welcome to the Blue Chip Podcast by fans for fans. This is your host Cody Potter. How y'all doing today? We are 2 days away from the draft. It's officially Tuesday. We have, less than 72 hours. We're getting there, man. It is lying season. I like to, pretty much preach to everybody. Do not ride the wave of the reports, man. Everything, this time of year really comes down to putting names in a bucket, getting the clicks, getting the views. Yesterday it's Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Love to the Cardinals. Today it's going to be 10 other things. I'm showing Mansour Delane here because I do think that cornerback is something that's it's a need. It's a need on this team. It's also a value, premium position. It's also somebody that I think really fits stylistically to what we need to do. The zone match scheme, playing press, the ability to play press man that we saw from him in Virginia Tech and the way that he improved on that at his time at LSU. The inside-outside ability to be able to match up on a number one receiver, the way that he covered Antonio Williams and guys like that at LSU from the Clemson game, guys that he matched up against in, South Carolina, guys that he matched up against Alabama, as far as the Bernards of the world. There's a lot of ways that this draft can go. I don't necessarily ride the wave on reports and things like that. It's very exhausting. You hear, if you're living in the Twitter sphere, you're living, based on the NFL reports, path to the draft, you're going to hear a lot of names, man. All teams are now down on Sonny Styles, or tomorrow they'll be high on Sonny Styles, or now this team's going to take Jeremiah Love in the top 10 or top 3. Ultimately, nothing has changed. Not one game has been played since, late January, February, since the Senior Bowl. The boards are locked, man. Like, these teams will tell you. They tell you the week before the draft. It's lying season, and then you're going to get all the reports from whether it's Pete Schrager, whether it's, Adam Schefter, whether it's Ian Rappaport, all these guys. I mean, everything changes day to day. You get a ton of reports, and you can either ride the wave or you can't. One day it's Jordan Tyson, one day it's Makai Lemon. This guy's going to tell you it's this player, that player, this player, that player. Realistically, the grades are what they are. Nothing has changed. Nobody's played football to change any of these reports. I mean, outside of a medical report, you're not even going to find that out until draft day, because you'll see somebody falling. At the end of the day, it's always been stylistically what you're looking for. Picking an outside corner, premier level corner, pairing that type of guy with Trey Amos, it's something that would go a long way towards this team. To me, when I look at this team, we've had really good picks the last 2 years at the cornerback position. I think Mansour Delane would really allow this player, Mikey Sanders, still to thrive. He has come in, he's been everything that we needed. People talk about bust, people talk about things. At the end of the day, Mikey Samerstill has been played and used in a position of necessity for this team. He's played inside corner, he's played outside corner, but the truth is the best thing for Mikey Samerstill is to be that nickel defender. It's not, sort of in the way that you talk about using like a Caleb Downs, not necessarily as a true strong safety, not necessarily as a true free safety, but playing that guy as a nickel defender, as in one play he's in the box, one play he's playing the third high, the next play he's lining up at outside linebacker, the next play he's lining up at nickel corner again, and then each time they're being used in a different facet of their game. We saw Mikey Samerstill in Michigan, and, as I said, he's been played a lot inside of a box, whether it was inside, whether it was outside. At the end of the day, man, like it's just about maximizing your pick, and it's not just the pick from this year, it's the picks previously. It's, knowing that we've been deficient on the cornerback position and we've had to play a certain player outside of their best role. It's been great. He's done it. He's been everything you could ask for. He tackles. He's been our leading turnover getter, as far as on the back end, whether it's forced fumbles, whether it's interceptions and things like that. Mikey Samerstill was always that guy coming out of Michigan, but when you draft a player, you don't always get to use that player based on injuries and things like that. Things happen over the course of of the season. Players have to move, players have to shift because realistically you lost a certain type of matchup that you had stylistically, and that's just the game of football. Ultimately, Mikey Sainristil is a really talented player, man. And I mean, honestly, he put his hands on 6 or 7 balls last year. Could have had 6 or 7 interceptions. Dropped 3 of them that I really, don't see this guy drop very often. So again, 6 or 7 interceptions is something this team hasn't had in a long time. And I mean, even his rookie year, putting his hands on 5 or 6 footballs in the air, getting 2 of them and then getting 2 interceptions in the playoffs. That is the player that we expect from Mikey Sainristil. We know he can play inside. We know he can play outside. You just still do all of those things systematically, but what we haven't seen from Mikey Sainristil is blitzing the quarterback a ton, being that nickel, being able to play, kind of look at that hybrid role from the safety position, whether it's inside or out, lining up on tight ends. We've seen it, but not stylistically because of need, whether Marshawn Lattimore's hurt, whether, first year Noah Igbenogany, playing, the nickel position once, Mikey Sainristil slotted outside because of injury, because, Emmanuel Forbes didn't work out, Benjamin St-Juste wasn't the guy. They got Mikey Sainristil, and that's, then they picked up Marshawn Lattimore. They ended up playing both of them guys outside. And then last year again, you see Mikey Sainristil lining up at the slot. Then you see him playing outside again due to necessity. So realistically, adding a Mansour Delane in this class would go a real long way towards repairing a lot of the things that you want to do stylistically with Mikey Sainristil. So it's not even just about maximizing this pick. It's about maximizing your roster overall and being able to play to the style of play that you wanted to when you envisioned taking Mikey Sainristil and getting the most out of Mansour Delane, because Mansour Delane and Trey Amos outside would be a really, really, really good problem to have as far as your matchup stylistically. Their coverage ability is great. Both of them can get their hands on the ball. I think Trey Amos is going to start getting his hands on the ball a little bit more. We've seen him in coverage. We know he can cover. I do need to see improvement from him as a tackler, but he is a willing tackler. It's just the physical nature of the position. You got to be able to hold that edge. And with our edge play, I think a lot has gotten highlighted on our corners and things like that. And that's not just in the run game, it's in the passing game too, because we're not getting pressure and we aren't getting home. The additions of Odafe Oweh, Leo Chenal, who can, rush the passer from inside out, play outside linebacker or play inside linebacker and rush the quarterback from both of those positions. That's why we talk about Sonny Styles, we talk about Caleb Downs. It's about maximizing these players. And I think, Mansour Delane would do a lot of that. That's if they choose to go that defensive route. I talked about this, the other day on my pod, and this is another player that I'm going to highlight, and I'm going to talk about it for other reasons, but Carnell Tate. Carnell Tate is not just taking Carnell Tate because we need another wide receiver. It's because realistically, stylistically, we do not win vertically outside of the hashes without Terry McLaurin, and that is what it has been. Year 1 with Daomi Brown, we had a little bit of that, and now Daomi Brown is back. But again, you want to upgrade that position because Daomi Brown it's hit or miss with him. I think Carnell Tate gives you a little bit more. It's not to knock Makai Lemon. It's not to knock, what Jordan Tyson does. I think Jordan Tyson is a better inside player than out, especially with what I look at how he wins. That space, that's the beautiful thing about college football. The hashes are much wider, so you line up wider stylistically due to the hashes being wider. And, when I see Jordan Tyson winning with what he excels at, again, it's more inside. That's why I like Omar Cooper. I think Omar Cooper gives you a little bit more outside than Makai Lemon does. And what Jordan Tyson offers you, I think he can naturally win more outside. I think his route running prowess translates a little bit more. I think he's a more explosive athlete than both of them guys. And then after the catch, he's just a different dude. And he can play inside. Stylistically, I think that's why I like Omar Cooper Jr. more than I like those two players. It's not that I dislike them players. I love their tape. I love Makai Lemon at the catch point. I love how physical he is at the catch point vertically and things like that. But again, it's all inside, to where I have seen Omar Cooper do the job, do the dirty outside, open things up for Elijah Surratt, open things up for that run game, and that he is the best blocker in my opinion. And then I think Carnell Tate is actually the second best blocker, when it comes to being outside. So again, it's stylistically, it's what are we missing? We saw what the addition of a Micaiah Lemon or a Jordan Tyson, in my opinion, with his best skill set, is playing outside. We have seen what that offers you. If a guy like Terry McLaurin goes down, we have nothing over the top outside of that. And if you want to put all your horses into Luke McCaffrey's development, and you want to put all your horses in again on Dammy Brown being your vertical shot, you're going to be missing that in a lot of games. I mean, it doesn't click for Dammy Brown. We've seen it over the course of his career. It's a game here, it's a game there, it's a game here, and a game there, where you do see him win vertically, but a game here and a game there is not going to take the pressure off of Jaden Daniels. So if Terry McLaurin goes down, you're stuck in that box. Adding a Brandon Ayuk, who, the potential is what it is, and we've seen him do it. That is, and we've seen him do it at a more consistent clip than what Dammy Brown does. So yes, that there's an enticing, factor to a Brandon Ayuk. Brandon Ayuk cannot be trusted as far as like, if we get him, and then what he gives you, and that's a high risk, high reward, but it's a low floor, high ceiling. Carnell Tate is a player that you are drafting for the future of this roster. He's going to be a face player over the course of this roster, and that is the type of player that you're going to need when Terry McLaurin is slowing down. That is why I have him higher than Micaiah Lemon, and I have him higher than Jordan Tyson, because to me, those guys are better suited inside. Not saying that Omar Cooper isn't suited to play the inside role, but I think he plays the outside role better than both of those two guys, in my opinion. We can talk about quarterback differences. We can talk about Fernando Mendoza, but I saw Omar Cooper do it with the other quarterback that Indiana had last year. People talk about, Carnell Tate, no 1,000-yard season. He didn't have a 1,000-yard season with a true freshman quarterback. And then, like he didn't have 1,000 yards the year before. Well, I mean, when your fight share is with, is between Jeremiah Smith and Emeka Egbuka, and you're kind of the 2-3 in that offense, I mean, you're still not going to get 1,000 yards. I mean, like, people talk about Emeka Egbuka having 1,000 yards and 10 touchdowns, and then this year he basically takes over for Emeka Egbuka and has, similar touchdown numbers, but he doesn't have the 1,000 yards receiving. It's like, well, I mean, Will Howard as a senior, there's different levels to being, having a true freshman quarterback run you through a season. There's a lot of times where you see Carnell Tate open down the field and Julian Sayin isn't hitting him, where I do trust on tape for what I saw, the way that Will Howard running that offense, he would have hit, Carnell Tate down the field. I think Carnell Tate is a really, really good fit for this team. Stylistically, where are we going to go? We don't know the names that are going to be available to us. I mean, we do, but we don't. It's going to be a factor of three guys, whether it's Ruben Bain, Carnell Tate, Caleb Downs, whether it's Sonny Styles, Carnell Tate, Caleb Downs, whether it's Ruben Bain, Sonny Styles, Mansour Delane, whether it's, whatever the variation is of the three names that are going to be available for the 8 or 9 guys that we've been constantly talking about. I mean, could it be Jeremiah Love? I don't think anything changed, whether these reports are, if Arizona wants to waste, the prime years of Jeremiah Love while they're still searching and trying to develop a quarterback, figuring out the offensive line and topping that off, I mean, we see teams do it all the time. We saw the Raiders do it last year with Ashton Jeanty. At least they're going to get their quarterback this year. At least they have an opportunity with their second-round pick to pick a valuable wide receiver that can develop outside of Brock Bowers and Ashton Jeanty while Fernando Mendoza develops. I think Elijah Surratt would go a long way with the chemistry and things like that for the Oakland Raiders, for the Las Vegas Raiders. But at the same time, we see these running backs time and time again go to teams that don't have quarterbacks, and the best years of their career are getting wasted. To me, that's not a reason not to take one, but at the end of the day, when I look at the Tennessee Titans, when I look at the Arizona Cardinals, when I look at the New York Giants, realistically, man, I don't think their offensive lines are where they need to be. If I was them, getting the protection in front of their quarterback would be a higher, importance for me. That's why I approve very much of the way that Adam Peters did it. Adam Peters going out and getting Laremy Tunsil and focusing on Josh Conerly, being able to have the flexibility this year to go wide receiver or, a Jeremiah Love type running back who would very, very much expedite the position, as far as what you were hoping to get from Austin Ekeler in the passing game as a third down running back, but then also what Jeremiah Love brings to you on the early downs and things like that. The best two places I've already said for Jeremiah Love, the player, and that's not how teams draft. Teams don't care. If they see a player and they love him, they're going to take him. It doesn't matter if it's the best place or the best situation for the player. We see it all the time. Teams don't care about where they are in their windows. They see the best player, they take the best player, even if it's not the best actual impact play for them. Jeremiah Love can go to the Tennessee Titans and get wasted there behind that offensive line while Cam Ward is still getting sacked at such a high clip that realistically teams can continue to stack the box. A running back, a dynamic running back like Jeremiah Love, he will impact the game. He will have his plays. He will have his moments. We saw that with Saquon Barkley. He is that level of running back. But again, you're putting him into an unfavorable situation to not maximize his skill set. And we see teams do it all the time. The New York Jets could very much take Arvell Reese and waste the prime years of his life just trying to figure out how to best use him. It happens all the time in the draft. So again, I look at Carnell Tate. I look at Mansour Delane. We already know Jeremiah Love. Is he going to go before us? There's a good chance. I've said it multiple times. I don't know if Jeremiah Love falls to us. If he does, you take him. You don't think about trading down. Just do it. He's the best player, and he fits. You are in your life cycle of your organization to where you have made the moves up front on your offensive line and in the trenches to where Jeremiah Love can impact your team dynamically with his special skill set in the run game, and as a third down running back, he can be that safety outlet to take some of the wheels off of Jaden Daniels, to kind of not have your quarterback running as much as you have been. You give him that safety outlet underneath. Again, you're still going to need to go wide receiver because, as I've said, there's a lot of things that need to happen in this wide receiver room. It cannot just be all on Terry. Yes, I think Terry's going to have a hell of a year this year. I don't expect him to be hurt and all the things, but you can never factor in, you can never bank on anything like that. We never know when injuries are going to happen, and they do need another vertical presence outside of, Terry McLaurin. So at pick 71, if you went Jeremiah Love, would you go wide receiver? Could it be a Ted Hurst? I don't know if he's there. Could it be Xavier Thomas, the wide receiver from LSU, maybe the Mississippi State, Brendan Thompson could be there, things like that. You just don't know. I'm kind of just going back and forth between highlights, just to kind of like do this for the sake of the show, between Mikey Sainristil, guys like that. Carnell Tate is a really, really fun player. I think he'd be a really, really good, impactful player. To me, if Sonny Styles is on the board, Sonny Styles is going to be the pick. If Jeremiah Love is on the board, he's going to be the pick. I can still very, very much see, I could see Jeremiah Love being there. I could very, very much see us go, edge if, a David Bailey was to fall. I think there's a good chance that Ruben Bain will be there on the board when we're picking. And if we went that direction, I'd be perfectly content with it, man. Like having that type of dominating force on the edge, setting the tone in the run game, who I know can get pressure and just be a leader in the locker room moving forward. I mean, he is a cornerstone type of player to me. Based on, the measurables and things like that. He didn't get a blue chip grade, but he's a hell of a football player, man. He's the type of guy that you could pair with an Odafe Owe, a Charles Omenihu, and, the Kayvon Chaisson, and really, really, really have a versatile, arsenal of pass rush. And if you told me that in the first 3 years, you turned your front level trenches on both sides of the ball from having just Sam Cosmi to having Sam Cosmi, Josh Conerly, and Laremy Tunsil, and then on the other side of the ball, you have now, as far as developmental pieces and, having some time, you have Odafe Owe and, Ruben Bain Jr. to look forward to for the next few years. You have a good chance, you're in a good situation to have an opportunity to re-sign Kayvon Chaisson next year, depending on how he fits this year, who I think would excel really, really. I mean, he is a physical ball player. He's a tone setter on the edge, too. Another player that I really, really do like. So, again, it's draft week. We're going to hear every and anything. Oh, the Commanders like this. Dude, as we've said the whole time from February on, nobody knows what's going on inside of this building. It is all speculation. Realistically, all anybody is doing is the same thing that I'm doing to you right now. I'm giving you statistical odds. Statistical odds say that we are pick 7. Okay, so pick 7. We know Fernando Mendoza, so what does that put in front of us? That picks five more players in front of us. So if we're just being logical about the grades, okay, so we got 3 edges, premium positions. If David Bailey consensusly is graded very, very high at the edge position. We're talking about Arvell Reese at the edge position. We're talking about his skill set, his high upside. Realistically, those two are coming in very high. So are they going to be there? More than likely, no. Statistically tells you no. History tells you no. Running back, statistically don't generally go this high. But in this draft class where you don't have the premier edges, I mean a very high number of premier level trait guys from the edge position with the tape to match. That's always another, part of the factor. Again, Jeremiah Love is in that range. Carnell Tate, the wide receiver position, the positional value, he's going to be up there. Whether it's Mekhi Lemon, whether it's Jordan Tyson, whether it's Carnell Tate, pick your preference. What are you looking for? I think it's outside. I think it needs to be more vertical. Of course, Carnell Tate is going to be higher to me because I think he naturally wins better from the outside, and I've seen him do it. When I look at the other guys, consistently vertically, especially from the outside position, translating to the NFL, I see a lot of questions. That's why Carnell Tate is there for me. That's why I like Mark Cooper Jr. That's why Denzel Boston is the guy that I talk about because, again, outside vertically, he gives you that. Again, it's what are you looking for? Wide receiver is not about, this guy is this guy, and this guy is this guy, and this guy is the Blitnikoff, and this guy. It is not that way at the wide receiver position. It is about what you are looking for, what you need, and then what you have. And when I look at what we need, what we have, and what we're trying to do stylistically, it's Carnell Tate, Omar Cooper, and Denzel Boston. Those are the 3 for me because of what we need and because of what we have and because of what we need to try to do moving forward from the wide receiver position. Then I think, like I said, Mansour Delane, cornerback, premier position. Premium position. You've addressed Mikey Sainristil. You've addressed Trey Amos. You tried it with Marshawn Lattimore, but you cut Marshawn Lattimore. Amik Robertson having, that depth piece and things like that. I look at Amik Robertson as a more depth piece. You signed him to a depth piece type of contract. You didn't sign him as a, Trey McDuffie. You didn't sign, Patrick Surtain. You signed Amik Robertson. We know what Amik Robertson is. Amik Robertson, and his skill set, his potential is a really, really good backup player for however you want to use Mikey Sainristil inside or out. And then, if Mansour Delane is the best player on your board, well, that elevates you to being able to play Mansour Delane and Trey Amos outside and then move Mikey Sainristil into the box. And that still means you can bring Amik Robertson based on how you want to use, Mikey Sainristil and the versatility that he offers you. Maybe you're going to line him up at strong safety or some kind of package and things like that because he can do it, and we know he can. So again, it's about maximizing the pick. It's about picking the best player available to you that's on your board that fits everything that you do not have in your locker room right now. Carnell Tate, Jeremiah Love, any of the edges, I love them. I mean, the edges would be there. I would take them. Even with the additions that we've already made, I would just solidify that room because even with the additions that we've made, one of them guys is signed beyond this year. Dorrance Armstrong is a guy that could very much come in and have an impact. K'Lavon Chaisson very, very much can come in and have an impact. Maybe you do sign him long term if he does come in and have that impact. But again, it's a 1-year prospect for right now. The only one that you're locked down to is Odafe Oweh. So again, adding to that room, there's nothing that stops me in that room right now from picking a Rueben Bain Jr. or a David Bailey or a Arvell Reese, depending on how you want to use him stylistically. I think that's another matchup problem that you would like to really have in that room with Dan Quinn, Sonny Styles, and Arvell Reese, and thinking about what I've seen from Brian Flores and that defense, man. Those 2 guys, man, those 2 guys would be locks to be the pick for me if they are there. Sonny Styles and Arvell Reese. I mean, there's no question to me if those 2 guys were on the board or one of them guys were on the board, they would take that guy. I just think they fit schematically towards the way that we want to attack the impact that we need from that position, and honestly, it just even heightens everything that you already have with Jordan McGee, Leo Chenal, and then, what do you get out of your pick last year from UCLA? Klein, Anyway, what I'm saying is what you have in that room. You're not banking anything. You're just adding to it, because realistically, man, this team needs roster. It not only needs top end talent, it needs better depth talent behind the top end talent. So when one of them players does go down, there isn't the extreme fall off that we've seen from when we've had a cornerback injury, or when we've had a linebacker injury, or an edge injury, and just the fall off in production and things like that. We know what the interior defensive line looks like. An injury in that room isn't necessarily going to kill you, because you have guys and you have body and you have talent, you have depth. Same thing with the offensive line. You have guys behind these guys that can come in, they can play meaningful snaps, and they can give you serviceable performance, and they can do it for 2 or 3 weeks and be legitimate guys that impact this team in a positive way behind the guys that we have that are finally accruing depth on the offensive line. That's why the offensive line is so much more improved after the first season, from the first season that AP took over to where we are now. That is why Jeremiah Love would really, really fit. So again, and that's where people are like, oh, well, Brandon Coleman doesn't start. Well, he's a hell of a swing tackle. If Josh Connolly or, Laramie Tunsil has to miss time, he can come in and do it. Trent Scott, same thing. He's a guy that we've seen come in and play viable reps and do a really, really good job in this system. So again, you have bodies behind these guys. So when injuries do happen, because it is football, it is violent in them trenches, you got guys that can come in and perform to a serviceable level. And if you look at the roster that we inherited from Ron Rivera and the absolute just negligence that they did to the offensive line, we have improved the trenches in front of Jayden Daniels. Now supplementing around Jayden Daniels with the pass catchers, with the running back position, just improving those rooms to take it over the top for this offense. That is something that I think is going to be key for this team moving forward. And no matter where it is, whether it's pick 7 or pick 71, you better start doing it very, very soon, man. You do not want Jayden Daniels to be playing Superman hero ball all the time. This is very, very pivotal for us. And I think Carnell Tate, Omar Cooper, Jeremiah Love at pick 7 would go a really, really long way for that. And as I've spoken on the defense, anything that we do on defense, whether it is Caleb Downs, whether it is Mansour Delane, whether it's the linebacker position, it's only going to help you supplement the players you've already picked, whether it be a Jerzon Newton, whether it be a Leo Chenal, whether it be a, Odafe Owe, whether it be the Nick Crosses of the world that came in here, and what the floor for this team has gone up through this free agency period. That is a good thing. We are younger, we are faster, we are hungrier. That is a good thing. Now you're looking to supplement the draft going forward with a long-term piece that is going to ultimately be starting day one and progressing year after year to be a top-end player on this roster. That's what you're drafting with this pick. Whether it's on offense or defense, these are the two visions that you're looking for from these players that you're looking for, and that could potentially be available in the draft. It isn't that this guy ain't gonna, dude, all these reports are bullshit. Nobody knows. Nobody actually knows. All we are actually talking about is statistically and, analytically, this is what the view is behind this. Anybody that thinks that they know, they don't. They're just giving you their side and why they're specifying it from an analytical standpoint. And that's all it really is. And that's what I'm trying to break down to you today. So again, 2 days from the draft, let's get into it. I have a mock draft that will be coming out either tomorrow or the day of the draft. So again, I'm working on it. The Giants kind of, like I said, I said it on the last episode, the Giants kind of screwed me picking the pick number 10. I was halfway through the first round. I was really, really working hard on that. I'm kind of back to pick number 12. So again, it'll be to you either tomorrow or the next day. But again, like I said, don't ride the wave. The reports that are going to come out, man, nothing changed. Absolutely nothing changed on a team's draft board. Nothing that happened changed any team's draft board. If they loved a player, they already loved him. If they went to see a player at their private workout, it's because they like the player. It is what it is. Or they're doing their homework. And again, it's getting more comfortable with them making the selection. So again, at the end of the day, nothing changes. It's all going to come down to when their teams are on the clock. Maybe a team's trying to move up, they get blown away with an offer. If that happens, they're going to move. If it doesn't happen, they're going to pick a player that they absolutely have the highest on their board, and that's how these teams are going to draft, and that's what they always do. So again, nothing has changed. Don't ride the wave. 2 more days out when you are going to know who is wearing your jersey, whether it's the Commanders or whoever your team is. If you're watching this and you're just a friend of mine, whatever it is, and just supporting the show, I appreciate it. So again, from the Blue Chip Podcast, have a blessed week, man. 2 days away, man. Hopefully your team gets your player. I'm excited for our team either way, man. I don't think we can miss. So at the end of the day, have a blessed week. Peace.